Maybe let's dive into the digital side of things, which you touched on. So in your time as CEO, the bank has gone through significant digital transformation. How have you approached this? What skills have you had to draw on, and what lessons have you learned during that process?
It's really a big team effort. And the only skill I had at the time was to assemble a great team of very committed leaders and capable leaders.
Yeah.
And then things just happened. We had a plan, and of course, everything was not executed as per the plan. But eventually, things happened. We had many deployments. We built solid technology that we believe is scalable, and we can even scale beyond Rwanda. And what I learned is that, first of all, a great team, you can achieve anything.
Yeah.
It's about putting the customer at the center of everything you do. It's about continuous learning. It's about failing and coming back to redeploy something. It's about making mistakes and being okay with making some mistakes. We have solutions that are the right fit to our context. It's not something we've bought from India. It's right what we need. And we can tweak it any day because it's developed by us. And that's something that has helped us to be agile and to keep developing and to continue learning, get feedback from clients and changing. I really feel it's more about the culture, again, than the technology itself.
You recently quoted, as Africa, we need to be at the center of the ownership economy. We need to move from dependency to ownership and sustenance. Do you want to maybe elaborate on that?
We keep telling people, even our clients, it's good to get services from the bank, but how about you become an owner of the bank? Because we are listed, you're publicly listed, and you can own a part of the bank. Right. And I think it's something that I keep telling even our staff. We have a share ownership program. We want our staff to own the bank eventually, because everything they built should be also built for them to build wealth for themselves and for their families. And ownership is beyond the sense that what we do will impact ourselves, but it's about making sure that we have a stake in what we do and we can build wealth for our families. And we tell clients, young entrepreneurs, they have a business that is growing, and we tell them, you need to start thinking about ownership of assets. You need to start building a balance sheet. And that's important because you find many foreign investors coming. I don't have anything against that. Coming and taking advantage of things that, we could do. And my sense sometimes at the bank is that we work for these foreign investors, yet we could be the owners of the organizations that we lead, and that's important. So I keep telling people, let's do things, but also let's own things so we can build prosperity for future generations.
I love that, and I fully agree with that. And I think it segues very well into our theme for tomorrow, right? The conference is around Africa's shared ownership and how we move from isolated mega projects to integrated cross-border projects. And we need to connect resources, we need to connect markets, we need to connect people and the continent at scale. You posted recently about Pan-African payments and settlement system. Are you seeing innovation in this space? And how can we take this ownership model that you've referenced into more practical implementation?
When you read the AFCTA, this is a free trade continental agreement for Africa, it's the boldest vision for the continent, but remains a piece of paper.
It does, because intra-Africa trade is still the lowest across continent. I think it's sub 17% or something like that.
Around there. What that means in practice is that if I'm a farmer from Ethiopia and I'd like to sell my grain to agro-industry in Rwanda, I'll face a lot more friction than selling my grain to Asia or Europe.
Which is crazy.
This is crazy, right? And what we need is interconnected ecosystem of infrastructure, which is rail, roads, waterways, etc. I think we need to harmonize regulations, which is still a big problem. And we need a financial infrastructure to sort of underpin that trade. And that's where PAPS comes in. It is enabling banks on the continent to transact without having to go through correspondent banks. As Bank of Kigali, we are now part of the 60 plus banks that are connected. So we can transfer money real time and in our local currencies without the need of hard currency. which reduces all the frictions that you can think of. Of course, it's still being built and optimized, but I think it's going to be a big enabler for trade flows on the continent.
In the lead up to COP30, you said this, the future of banking is green. I'm curious to know what you were trying to communicate with that.
The growth agenda in Rwanda is green. I think we call it, green growth path. And we've even, as a country, identified sectors or themes that we want to focus on. And for us, as Bank of Kigali, as a partly state-owned organization, we need to support the growth agenda. When we look at projects to finance, we ask them about sustainability because, again, we cannot prioritize. We don't have the luxury of saying, we'll think about sustainability later.
Exactly.
And today we have great projects in mobility, in climate smart agriculture, in infrastructure, energy, etc., which we finance and we get great incentives from the state. Our clients get subsidies when they engage into green projects. Profit, of course. I think as a business man or woman, you want to make profit, but it's important to think of impacts.
And I want to tie two things that you said together. One is sustainability, which we talked about, but resilience, actually. Part of being resilient is also building sustainably. And I think that lens is super important, as you've highlighted. It's not just green for the sake of being green when we think about climate change. It's green also when we talk about resilience. It's green when we talk about efficiency. It's green when we talk about legacy. And I think that's a good way to sort of bring all of what you said together, because they're all kind of intertwined. For us to build legacy, for us to build for the next generation, we need to think about these things carefully. If we do all those things right in a people-centric way, then we've left the right legacy for the next generation.
So maybe I'll make a point. Probably in more mature banking markets, there is a tension between sustainability, profitability, and inclusivity, etc. For us, there's no tension. It's actually very mutually enforcing. When I do digital, it's because I want to grow and I want to have more clients. I want to be more profitable. I want to be more efficient. When I do sustainability, it's also because I want to be more profitable. So there's no tension, and you find yourself doing them seamlessly, because they are complementary. What we have to build in our organizations is agility and absorption capacity, because we need to keep changing.
You're a leader who has lived around the world. You've lived in several continents. I remember you told me earlier you were in Switzerland for 15 years. You're back in Africa. You've been here for several years, and you're a very well-respected leader. Now, if you were talking to the next generation, what are 3 things that you would say you've learned?
So surprisingly, I think the lessons I have learned over the past probably 2 decades, I didn't draw them from my experience in living outside the continent, but actually from witnessing real transformation here in Rwanda. That's where I really got the inspiration that it is possible for leaders to change things for the better, and in a very sustainable manner. Witnessing this here and actually contributing has probably shaped the way I think about leadership in an African context. It's clarity of vision that's critically important. We need to be clear about what we want to achieve as a people. I'll come back to unity of purpose. What I've seen over the years is, again, when you have a good team of people who think that we can achieve things together, we actually make progress.
Anything is possible, yeah. That's great. Thank you, Diane. It's been a great pleasure having you, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you very much, Peter.